listen, moons, Mars and moons. Right. So, the overall structure, you have Mars here, then you're going to have two moons. So this is one, and this is one. With Mars in the center, that represents Kepler's, right? Foci, etc. Okay, now that we've got that, we can take those out. Okay, so if this is one, it's going to be in the middle, like center is going to be one. And then center is going to be the other. So it really sandwiches the moon itself. The moon sandwich it. It's a bit complicated and simple at the same time, which is nice. Okay, so one will be more active. And active itself doesn't mean that it exists. It means that it's got an increased energy compared to the other. And we're going to split those because there's going to be no true night light. It's a phenomenon. It's incredible. It truly is. We're going to split those between the day and night, sunrise, sunset. So we know that Mars has 88,775 sequences. So that would give us 44,387.5 sequences. Okay, so I'm going to give you the components of it and then we'll put it all together. So our basic structure idea is that there's enough tidal pull, basically, so that it rises Mars grid system H2O. As we know from the core, from the core all the way to the surface is water. And we know that we're heating the water with that. But we also have to pull it up so that any time water is taken out, which is encouraged, we put water back in using atomic technology rather than like physical, like hoses. Like we'll use physical hoses to take it out, but we're using atomic technology to put it in, and that starts from the core up. So we have to find a way to lift it up, right? So that's what these moons are for, and to put it down so it doesn't go too much, man. All right, so before we get started, we know that in general we see this relativity like this, which is a perfect 2D example, absolutely perfect. Minton Company, coming in peace. They said that, and accurately, it's a 2D. So 3D isn't so like I'm here and that's here. It's more like it's just like all encompassing, right? Like there is no true direction, and rocketry, physics, etc. uses zenith to attempt to put up. That's what zenith is. It's like directly up from where you're standing. That's zenith. So that's an attempt to coordinate something that is all-encompassing, where up is down, down is up, and everything like that. East is west and all that. So they use zenith to just say that's up, right? So the point of that is that we're going to take this out of the 2D relativity and put it into 3D. So if this is Mars, it's really up, down, across, side to side, and everything in between. So in order to better station it, we're going to have two of them here, right? And the weights are going to be constant, okay? So the weights are going to be constant for the moons. They are going to be tidal locked as well. Tidal locked is, just a quick reference, most people will probably know what it is. Tidal locked means that like you're only seeing this. Like see how you can't see my back right now? That's tidal locked, right? So if I was rotating, I'm just rotating like this. That's tidal locked. I'm locked in. The gravity of this camera just loves me. We just locked in and we're just going like this. You can't see that. The moon, our moon, Earth's moon, is tidal locked. If it wasn't tidal locked, then it would be like this. That's not tidal locked. So that's independent of its own gravity. So these moons are going to be tidal locked, so you're only going to be seeing this side of it. we're also not going to be putting a surface on it. So like, there's going to be certain things like when you see why they work, our natural explorer, like, boo, let's go explore. When you see how it works and you can do stuff like this, you're going to realize that some things don't. Some things don't. Don't go into that room. They're highly reactive. You can still study what that room is without going into it, without it turned on. Good comic. But yeah, so they're going to be like that. But we're going to have to make, we're going to make them a bit, one's going to be retro and one's going to be pro. Now, I told you what tidal locked was. Tidal locked is just that, right? Retro is the direction you're spinning in relation to your orbit. So retro and pro, I mean, are the direction you're spinning in relation to your orbit. So pro means you're going with your orbit, retro means you're going against your orbit. So of the two moons that are sandwiching Mars, one is going to be retro and one's going to be pro. And the reason we do that is for pulling water up, taking water down. That's the whole reason. Okay, so if this is Mars, and Mars has a naturally pro, and it does prograde rotation, it is going to meet this one here, which we consider the up. We consider it rising the water up. Okay, it is going to meet it and have a retrograde. So it is going to have a retrograde rotation. Clockwise, anti-clockwise. Anti-clockwise, clockwise. Okay, and then the one that pulls it down is going to have a prograde. It's going to have a, thank you, is going to have a prograde rotation. Okay, and then because we're technically in 3D versus 2D, these sides are just, I mean, it's what's been happening, but it's just the energy between where it like starts to come down from that. And the reason why, you've ever seen those wheels and they've got these on it? Right, like gears, and it's rolling this way, and then when it hits that one, it makes it go this way. Okay, so that's what it is. Okay, this is Mars, and then this one would, there's only two directions you can go. It's the same concept, right? So it's the same concept. So this is the main one here. When it starts, it sends this one, and then this one would be following this one. The only difference is this is in this rotation right here, and this is in this rotation right here. With this being the retro, which is pulling the water up from the core, and this one being the pro, which is pulling the water down. Okay, so that's just how we're going to do that. Good. Okay, now we're going to make this scaled 1/25 of Mars's entire size. Like the moon is one, give or take a few decimal points, like 0.24, so it's like 3.67, something like that. So like 0.24, whatever it is, 0.34. But we're gonna make it 1/25, like on the nose, 1/25. Earth's moon was 1/4 scale, give or take. Okay, but we're gonna make Mars moons on the nose 1/25, and you'll say, oh, but that's Earth and Mars is 1/4, 3.67. That's a big difference. Hey, man, Mars has lunar dust. It's a base. It's born. It's different. Okay, so we're gonna make Mars is moon. It's retrograde nickel, right? And its retrograde nickel is heavier. Okay, and we're gonna make that only nickel. That moon's only going to be nickel. There's not going to be a surface. There's not going to be lunar dust. There's just going to be nickel. It's going to be a big old nickel deal. Correct. We're going to make the prograde 1/25 also has iron 26. So those are going to be heavier amount with no, there's going to be no surface. It's just a solid moon ball. Solid moon balls right there. All right. And one is going to be active. The retro is going to be active at sunrise. So from 0 to sunset, sunrise, which is 44,387.520. And then sunset's going to be the pro, which is 44,387.5. And remember, pop quiz. Sunset is which element for the moon? Iron. Good job. Sunrise, which is retrograde, is what element for the moon? Nickel. Good job. And that's all it's going to be. The whole thing's going to be, and that's how I can, or we can justify doing 1/25th scale. Because that's heavy, man. Okay, so we know that the weight is constant. We know that it's tidal locked. We know that there's a retrograde, prograde. We know that we're putting it into a 3D respect right here, which is incredible. We know that there's a different core, pitot. We know that why it's moving in those motions. So I've already filled out what this is in regards to LDD, right? So in the beginning it was super confusing, but whenever you start to use like a specific word that has a paragraph of meaning, which is kind of what mathematics is like, then it makes more sense. So I'm going to let you all fill all of this out, and just to let you know, it's LDD1 and LDD2, right? So I'll let you fill this out, and then we'll get in here in a few lessons or whatever and fill it out just to see where everybody's at. However, there's one difference, and I don't need you to even focus on the small r, but on the big R, the big R's. Okay, so don't even worry about C pi t, just say it's repeat, remix, remain capitalized, and I'll figure it out. But the reason is we're going to do it a little bit different than how I showed you on previous lessons. Not on previous leaf pills, for those who have been following along. It started with only C, right? It just is C pi t now. Okay, so different than these various lessons. Now what we're going to do here is that we know that C equals 186,000 miles per second fast, right? It's the speed of light. Okay, and we know that Venus is between 0.65 AU and 2.39 AU. Okay, so right now it's closer to 2.39 AU, right? So like above 2, but not 2.39, which is, I mean, it's still like the difference between 2.39 and 2 is still like 40-50 million miles. So it's a big number. Not for the speed of light, it's not a big number. It's like 4 minutes, but it's big regardless. Okay, so what does that mean? That means that this nickel and iron core, the atoms for it are going to be coming from Venus. And that's good, because some people think we should be focusing on Venus and cooling it down. And I agree and I disagree and da-da-da. It doesn't matter. But regardless, this pays for it to calm down, because Venus is too hot, man. Whew. So, if you were to take 2 AU, we would be at 186 million miles. 1 AU is 93 million miles. You times that times 2, you get 186 million miles. So then you divide that by 60, and you divide, that's minutes, and you divide it by 60 again, and you get, to get it into the proper format. So you get 16 minutes. So basically 1 AU from the solar, well, it is the solar. AU, just a quick references, it was done from Earth to the sun, which talks about 1 AU, because that's where we're from, and that's where AUs come from. So it takes generally about 8 minutes at the speed of light to travel from the sun to Earth. Now at this moment of today, which it's May 31st, basically, 2024. It would take 16 minutes to reach from, I mean, give or take a couple minutes. And I'm not too worried about it, but it's not one of those situations you have to be exact in. You just have to be in the ballpark of it. In this case alone. Okay, so it's going to take around 16 minutes to get all of those elements to fill 1/25th size of Mars with one moon as nickel and one moon as iron. Okay, and the reason I'm doing that is the good thing about using strictly C versus C pi T. C pi T is you're taking another world that is leaf pilt bound, and you're superimposing it, injecting it into this one, and it just is, right? But 186,000 is our specific speed of light. So for 16 minutes, give or take 4 minutes, well, it's only take 4 minutes, you'll be able to see it. And I just wanted to give you all a visual representation versus just shoving it in and just letting you see it. So from there, all we really need to do is, you all will fill this out. You understand this. We're going to be doing it from there. So we need to get this part here satisfactory, and then ultimately get our ain roared. The V ain roared, Mars old Temp Yr Limit.